John Matthews was 64 years old and looked like what most people would call ordinary. His gray beard was neatly trimmed, his steps were steady but slow, and his voice was calm, almost too calm for the chaotic rhythm of Lagos. He walked with an old leather bag tucked under his arm, and on his feet were the same pair of shoes he had worn for more than a decade. The soles were weathered, the leather cracked, and the color faded unevenly. Anyone who didn't know him would assume he was a retired schoolteacher or a pensioner trying to stretch his last savings. But anyone who truly knew him understood something else. John Matthews was not broke. In fact, he was the silent investor behind some of the most successful businesses in Lagos and Abuja. From agricultural startups to logistics companies to hotels, his money quietly worked in the background. He didn't dress the part because he didn't feel the need to. John had grown up poor in Ibadan, the son of a carpenter. His father once said, "Character speaks louder than clothes." It was advice he carried with him long after life blessed him with wealth. And now, at 64, the simplicity that once helped him blend into crowds had begun to attract judgment. The story truly began on a Thursday morning in Victoria Island. John's business partner, David Cole, had been urging him to visit one of their newest investments, a luxurious 5-star restaurant named the Royal Terrace. The place was stunning. Towering windows, marble floors, imported chandeliers, and walls painted in soft cream and gold. It catered to wealthy bankers, diplomats, celebrities, and tourists. And on paper, John was the largest investor. But he chose to remain silent and anonymous, letting the younger partners handle publicity. That morning, John decided to visit the restaurant unannounced, not as an investor, but as an ordinary customer. He wanted to see the service, the prices, and the atmosphere. He wanted to know how the staff treated strangers, not VIPs. He believed that the best way to test a business was to experience it as the least powerful person in the room. When the security guard saw him approaching, he glanced at the old shoes and frowned. "Good morning, sir," the guard said cautiously. "Can I help you?" "Yes," John replied with a slight smile. "I'm here for breakfast." The guard hesitated. John didn't look like the typical clientele. His shirt was clean but faded, his shoes worn, and he carried no flashy phone or briefcase. Still, the guard reluctantly opened the door. Inside, 2 receptionists stood behind a polished mahogany desk. Their names were embroidered on their uniforms, Grace and Naomi. Grace took one look at John and her brows tightened. "Sir," she said, maintaining a polite but stiff tone, "are you sure you're in the right place?" "I believe I am," John replied. "I'd like to have a table, please." Naomi leaned toward Grace and whispered, though not quietly enough, "He doesn't look like he can afford anything on the menu." John heard it, but he didn't flinch. Grace cleared her throat. "Sir, this restaurant is expensive," Naomi finished sharply. John nodded patiently. "That's fine. I'll still like a table." The receptionists exchanged a look. Grace forced a smile. "Just a moment, sir." She walked away, pretending to check availability, though plenty of tables were empty. Naomi stared at John's shoes, her expression openly judging. Eventually, Grace returned. "Sir, unfortunately, we are fully booked for the morning." John simply asked, "Are you sure?" She swallowed. The lie was obvious, but she held to it. No available tables. He nodded slowly, then turned and walked toward the exit. The security guard held the door but avoided eye contact. As John left, he heard Naomi's snide remark. "Some people should know their level. Look at his shoes." The staff laughed. John didn't respond. He didn't scold them. He didn't reveal his identity. He simply walked away, silently planning what would come next. By noon, the restaurant was buzzing. Businessmen in tailored suits arrived. Wealthy patrons took photos for social media. The aroma of grilled seafood and freshly baked bread filled the air. The manager, a middle-aged man named Collins, returned from a meeting and noticed the strange mood among the receptionists. "What's going on?" he asked. Grace shrugged. "We had someone earlier. He didn't belong here." Naomi added, "Old shoes, worn clothes. Probably couldn't afford bottled water." Collins frowned. "Did you turn him away?" "Yes," they said in unison. He sighed deeply. In hospitality, first impressions matter, but so does respect. His intuition told him they had made a mistake, but he didn't press further. He had no idea how big the mistake actually was. 3 days later, the Royal Terrace received an email requesting a full staff meeting, evaluation of customer service, and a surprise investor visit. The message came from the board. The staff murmured anxiously. Which investor is coming? Someone asked. No idea, another replied. Meanwhile, the dining hall was polished, the uniforms freshly laundered, and the reception desk reorganized. At exactly 10 a.m., the doors opened. And in walked John Matthews. Same old shoes. Same faded shirt. Same calm expression. Grace and Naomi froze. Collins swallowed hard, recognizing him, but from where? Then he saw the board members following behind John, greeting him with respect. Sir Matthews, welcome. Good morning, sir. It's an honor to finally have you here. Grace's heart dropped. Naomi's face paled. The security guard nearly stumbled. The silent investor, the one whose money funded this place, was the man they mocked. Before anyone could speak, John raised his hand. No need for formalities. I came here to talk about something important. They all stood in silence. John turned to the board members and staff. Last week, I came here as a regular customer. I wanted to see how we treat people. I wanted to know whether we judge service by wealth or by character. He looked directly at Grace and Naomi, though not with anger. I was refused service. Not because of lack of space, but because of my appearance. The room was dead silent. He continued, I have invested in businesses for decades. I have learned that success isn't only built on food or decor. It is built on dignity, how we treat people who appear powerless to us. He paced slowly. Not everyone who enters a place like this will look rich. Some will come wearing worn shoes. Some may be retirees. Some may be farmers, teachers, mechanics. Are they less deserving of respect? No one spoke. Hospitality is not about wealth, he said softly. It is about humanity. Collins, the manager, felt ashamed. He should have trained the staff better. But John did not fire anyone immediately. Instead, he made a decision. Grace and Naomi were suspended for 2 weeks. All staff were required to undergo new training on customer ethics. Free meals for 3 days were donated to a nearby orphanage as a reminder of humility. He ended the meeting with a final statement. If someone had treated my father poorly because of his shoes, I would never have forgotten it. I will not let this restaurant become a place that humiliates people. Over the suspension period, both women struggled with embarrassment and guilt. They realized how quickly they judged. By appearance, by assumptions, by pride. Grace remembered her grandmother's words, never despise humble beginnings. Naomi thought about her own father, a retired mechanic with worn shoes, not unlike John's. They understood the lesson now. Kindness should not depend on status. 2 weeks later, they returned. When John visited again, this time dressed the same as before, the difference was astonishing. The security guard greeted him warmly. Good morning, sir. Welcome. Grace spoke gently. Sir, we are truly sorry. Please, allow us to give you the best seat available. Naomi added, and breakfast is on the house. John smiled. No need for free meals. Just treat others the way you have treated me today. And so they did. The Royal Terrace earned a new reputation, not only for luxury, but for fairness. Customers began sharing stories online. An elderly man treated kindly. A student given courtesy. A hawker allowed a glass of water without ridicule. The restaurant flourished, not just in money, but in values. Customer loyalty soared. And John continued to invest, not in marble floors, but in training and staff welfare. He believed in long-term success, not quick profit. 1 year later, during an investor gathering hosted at the restaurant, a young entrepreneur approached John. Sir, he asked, what's your secret? How did you build such success? John smiled gently. By never forgetting where I came from. And by remembering that the person who looks poorest today might be the one who saves your business tomorrow. The young man nodded slowly, understanding the weight of the words. As John left the restaurant that night, he looked at his old shoes. They carried memories, not of wealth, but of humility. And he smiled. Because sometimes, the most powerful lessons come not from gold watches or designer suits, but from old shoes and the journeys they've walked.